All right, we are now at the 4 o'clock hour. This has been a fantastic day. I want to definitely thank Wade and Miranda. I mean, what an incredible lineup we've had today. One of the things I love is I help run the partnership organization for Tealium. I've been here for almost 5 years. And one of the things I love to hear is when something that we're doing is resonating with our customers, it really makes magic happen. And today, I think on stage, we have heard so many times that with the decline of the third-party cookie, with privacy regulations, and with consumers demanding more, CAPI is a solution and a path to be able to preserve measurement, to be able to better understand the interaction with your customer and be able to communicate them in the moments that matter. And I think I love when I see things like Twinset showing their increase in ROAS and their increase in conversion rate to validate that this is something that is not just talked about, but it's something that can be actioned on. It really makes me ecstatic because I think pixel-based marketing for years has been the way in which we've measured success. It's been the way that we've communicated results. And that's really been crumbling. The foundation for it's been crumbling with these changes in those different things. So what's exciting is this is exactly where CAPI comes in. And for most people that are in this room, if you're not paying attention to this right now, you're probably on one of these 3 apps, doing something, looking at something, or communicating. And they're actively looking back at you, trying to better understand what they need to be able to do. And this is exactly where CAPI comes in. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at how a brand can not only maintain measurement accuracy today, but we're also going to look at how you optimize campaigns, how you can increase revenue, and so on. And the nice thing is when you hear the data points, I really encourage you to listen and take note and look at your own organization as a baseline to be able to ask yourself, could we be doing more? Because last year on stage, we had the Screwfix Kingfisher team talking, and their results, which I had noted, were a 15% increase in ROAS with Google, a 66% revenue lift with Meta, and a 47% revenue increase with Pinterest by activating these channels. Those are pretty substantial numbers. And when you think about 70% of your revenue may come from a store and 30% online, this is a massive opportunity to engage your client at scale. So what we're going to look at is really, how do we do this? How do each of you do this, and how do we get there? So I'm excited today. We've got a wonderful panel, and we've got some folks joining us. So Lauren and Omer and Chris are representing LinkedIn, Meta, and Snapchat. And we're really excited to have them talk about this journey and how each of you can capitalize on it. So I'd say let's start with intros. So Lauren, why don't you introduce yourself to this group?
Thanks so much for having me, Matt. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Attia. I'm on the business development team at LinkedIn, and I lead the partnership with Tealium.
Omer?
Hey, thanks for having me. My name is Omer Bacharach. I'm a partner manager focusing on signals in Meta.
Hi, Chris. Great turnout. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for Tealium for hosting. I am at Snap and lead the partnerships organization on the product side.
Excellent. Well, as we look at the time we've got today and what we can talk about, I think the best place to start for me is Omer. When we start with you and think about when Meta first launched CAPI, it was called server to server, right? I don't know if anyone knows that in the room, but when you move to the area beyond a technical framing and into a business context, tell us about why Meta decided to do that and kind of the journey you guys went on.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I'd pay good money to be in a room with sales folks pitching server to a business that is not familiar with digital marketing or pixels. I'm sure it would have been a very interesting conversation. But jokes aside, when we launched CAPI first as server to server, it had a very technical flavor to it. And we quickly understood that this is not a technical solution, but actually a business one powered by amazing technology. And we renamed it to Conversions API. To my opinion, the power of Conversions API is twofold. First, it's a secure channel to drive meaningful business outcome. And the second, it creates new businesses. It unveils the whole funnel. So for example, with Conversions API, a whole new spectrum of clients that were used to optimize for some kind of event at the bottom of the funnel right now opens up new opportunities. And I always like to take automotive as an example. So think about a car agency that is publishing on Meta. It's usually a lead ads campaign. The bottom of the funnel, the event that is on the bottom of the funnel is usually lead capture. And businesses would optimize towards that event. Now, those are not the most meaningful customers or conversions because the conversions don't happen on the web. It's on another channel. And speakers before me mentioned about the call center experience, which is tough. And this is exactly where Conversions API can bring data from different channels and actually optimize towards quality versus quantity. And if there's one message I'd like to land here is that preceding speakers to this panel talked about better experiences and privacy and personalization. In my opinion, personalization and privacy can coexist, and copy is the secure channel that can drive this home.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating thing to think about when you talk about privacy and security and the different things associated with looking at the offline and being able to bring that back and having visibility into that journey. I mean, it's something that's very substantial. And I think whenever we had talked prior to doing this, it's the perspective's different from each panelist, right? And I think, Chris, whenever you look at how Snapchat's got their perspective on this and being at the user conference and going to, I think you guys are going to eclipse 1 billion users this year. It's insane how many people are using the platform. But when you think about what you've needed to do to adapt your measurement and targeting capabilities in response to these shifts, what are some of the things you guys have had to take into consideration?
Yeah, I think Snapchat was born as a mobile app, right? So we didn't have the advantage of legacy web-based signals. We didn't have pixels deployed across the web ecosystem. And so we've really had to build a foundation of signals ingestion and then signals ranking and optimization from the ground up. And that has, in many ways, changed the way we think about our business. From the time we started monetizing to today, we've sort of gone through the process of becoming a brand-focused business, driving awareness and other mid-funnel KPIs to a performance business, which is driving outcomes directly on site or in-app for advertisers, performance advertisers. And we've really had to think about how to do that in a privacy-sensitive way. Snapchat was invented really as an app to make you feel more comfortable communicating with friends. And so how do you do that while maintaining the amount of information you collect and then the amount of data you process? And we've I think done a pretty good job striking that balance, but there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and I think with what Jeff had mentioned earlier today about 55% of the traffic coming from mobile apps, and then thinking about the effectiveness of the pixel loss, in your case, it doesn't necessarily apply. So these are things you have to look at from through a very different lens. And one of the things I find interesting is if you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, please connect. I love LinkedIn. I use it all the time to communicate what I'm doing in the world. And in a partner landscape, I need to communicate. I need to provide information to everyone in this room about the partner programs, the great things we're doing with the technology partners and platforms that are out there. And whenever I think about the challenge you have, Lauren, and how, I guess from your perspective, how has this privacy-driven signal loss impacted a brand's ability to optimize and understand performance on LinkedIn? It'd be great to get your feedback.
Yeah. So gaps in signals, the loss of signals will result in gaps in attribution, and that leads to incomplete campaign data. And so when our customers implement CAPI, they're able to have a complete picture and a full understanding and hard data of what's really proving out ROI. And so CAPI is able to mitigate that signal loss because you're able to leverage that rich first-party data and collect more signals from multiple touch points, and that will allow you to really understand where your prospect is in their customer journey. And if you're a B2B marketer out here, you understand why that is so crucial to your business, right? So on average, we see the B2B sales cycle last on average around 6 months, but That definitely varies. I was attending Digital Velocity in San Diego a couple weeks ago, and two women from MK Anderson were presenting, and they confirmed that it took them over 2 years to sell in Tealium to their organization. So when you think about this extended sales cycle, it is so important to stay top of mind, and you need to ensure that when you are reaching that buying group that's so important to you, you understand where they are, and you're providing them with ads and messaging that really resonates into where they are in their buyer journey. So without Cappy, offline events like CRM updates or event attendance or sales calls with BDR reps, they're invisible to LinkedIn's algorithm. However, when you set up Cappy, all of those offline signals are able to come back to our platform via Cappy, and we are able to utilize them to connect to your online campaigns to ensure you're reaching the right audience and really able to prove out the ROI from there. And so in our industry, for so long, we relied on clicks and page views to really drive ad strategy. And it is so important to take a closer look at those high value outcomes, whether it's qualified leads or offline sales, and really turn to them to, put your ad strategy in a better place and drive success for your business.
Yes, I mean, whenever I think about what we had talked about this and just the why, right? Why do we need to do this? I think one of the best takeaways after hearing that is that it's clear the old way is breaking down, right? And everybody's getting that. And when we look at what it takes to implement, that's kind of where we're going to go in this next phase of the conversation. But I think the way that you put it, Chris, whenever we were first talking about it, was like it's like driving at night without headlights. If you start to think about this, yes, you can drive, not recommended, not insured, those types of things for type of bad behavior. But it's like when you look at the thing with headlights and having the ability to have the server-side interaction, you can see so much more. And so those are things that we look at as like, now you understand the importance of this. Now we need to talk about, well, how do you do it? What are the best practices for getting it up and running? And so, Lauren, like when we were going through this and thinking about it and talking about it, it's like, how does LinkedIn support a brand that wants to do this, wants to take the leap and start to do this, but they may have limited engineering bandwidth, the constraints internally? What do you recommend and how do you recommend they get started?
Yeah, so implementation can definitely be a blocker for our customers when it comes to wanting to set up Cappy. Like you said, it's resourcing, it's bandwidth, or Cappy just isn't prioritized, or leadership doesn't have the buy-in yet to understand what Cappy does, which is so painful as a former seller to see our customers leaving money on the table like that. So our goal is really to remove any sort of friction that we have in terms of implementation, and that means working with partners like Tealium. We actually have a program live right now where LinkedIn will cover the cost of Cappy implementation if you reach certain eligibility requirements. And so being able to work with Tealium, because they have that white glove service implementation that we know is amazing, and they understand their customers, they understand the value of Cappy. And so coming up with different levers that we can pull through our partners is really a way we can push implementation and prove out the value of advertising on LinkedIn.
That's excellent. And when I think, Omer, with the stuff that we go through with Meta, you talk about the pixel setup, right? That's what we've classically done. But whenever you think about Cappy, talk about that from the standpoint of the paths that we look at for implementing Cappy. You've got the direct API integration, working with partners. There's a lot of routes to get this up and running. Would you like to talk through that for the audience?
Sure, I'd love to. First of all, Pixel is quite a straightforward implementation. It takes around, half an hour for a front-end engineer. Cappy is more complicated. It requires more skills. And there are two ways you can integrate Cappy. And this probably stands to every API that we have available on our system. You have a direct integration that if you have the internal know-how, the technical skills, and R&D team, then you can go ahead, consume the protocol and implement it and integrate into it. And the other path is through partners, what we call MVPs, Meta Business Partners. Tealium is one of those. And that's a great service because it mitigates a lot of friction, technical friction. And there was a gentleman here in one of the sessions here, I think showcased an amazing resort. Still waiting for the customer code, by the way. And he talked about a one-stop shop and kind of solving problems. So a partner, in our perspective, is a one-stop shop solution for all of the needs and problems. And what I can advise to partners and even advertisers or clients that decide to integrate directly or through a partner is to, and I'm wearing my product manager hat here, is to think in a multi-publisher approach. We started Copy 5 years ago, and LinkedIn and Snap joined the party. And I see a lot of other publishers joining as well. When you build a solution, think about how you can serve it in a multi-publisher way. So if there's a new copy in town, it's very easy to plug it into. And this is the best practice that I advocate for when speaking with partners or advertisers.
Yeah, and I think that when we look at each of the routes to be able to activate CAPI, I think, Chris, this is where we look at some of the things too with Snap and being able to, you guys are all working so closely with your partners. It's exciting, but I think, Chris, whenever you think about the factors that you see that set a brand up for success when integrating CAPI, what are some of the critical things you would say is best practices a brand can embrace to engage?
Yeah, thank you to Omer, because we do want to think multi-publisher as the very first best practice. If it's worth doing for one publisher, it's worth doing for the breadth of your media plan. And I feel like there's some efficiencies to gain at doing it all at once versus trying to do them piecemeal. We've done a really good job at Snap of trying to actually replicate what Meta has built in terms of their API spec so that the data standardization drives efficiency. I will also reiterate what we've been talking about, which is the multi-channel approach. So it's not just about web events. It's also about your offline data. It's about the data that lives in your app, ensuring there's continuity in data collection and processing across all those devices, and in terms of ensuring that there's interoperability of identifiers, and then ensuring that there's a hygiene program that is focused on deriving high quality insights from that data, as opposed to just funneling everything to an endpoint is really critical. It very much is, you get in, you get out what you put in. And so there was a slide in the previous presentation that talked about three things, right? Which is data interoperability, high quality signal, and then ensuring that data is managed with respect, and that data is associated with consent. Those are the three starting points, and we can go increasingly complex once we get the foundation right, but it's really doing those few things right from the onset that will ensure success down the road.
Well, and I think that's kind of the next point is like, okay, once we get it live, that's what we see a lot of the customers that are in this audience. Many of them have activated one CAPI. And so, Chris, I'd say whenever you think about a post-implementation strategy, right? Now that you've got it running, you've got the data coming back, how do you then recommend that an advertiser revisit, tune, and improve that?
I think it's not set and forget. It's set and learn and test. Thank you if you've already built to Snap, but if you haven't, it is, I want the takeaway not to be that we just need to do it and move on. It's that we need to do it, and then we need to understand the value of the signal as it's being ingested by the platform and then used downstream. So the first thing is understand how it's used in audience creation. The second is understand how it's used in ranking and optimization. So signal should actually improve delivery of your ads and make that process more efficient. The third is how is it used in measurement? So your measurement should get much better, right? Whether we're measuring offline events, whether we're measuring in-app conversions, or measuring other signups or page views or other elements of the web DR stack. All of that should improve. And if it's not improving, then work with your representative at Tealium, work with your representative at Snap to understand how those things can get better, whether the signal is of high quality to ensure that we can match that user back to the user on the Snapchat side, but also what types of products does it unlock? Because we have a couple products that are gated by high quality signal. The first is dynamic product ads. The second is predictive audience targeting. And the third is value optimization, all of which I think are KPIs you can leverage across multiple publishers, but are but our high quality signal is table stakes to actually using those 3 solutions.
That's great. And I think, Lauren, whenever you look at the benefits that you had mentioned, when you think about how advertisers see lift, right? There's the initial lift when they turn it on, but then over time, how do they optimize? What do they do to be able to increase the performance of the LinkedIn Cappy?
Yeah, so on average, we see about a 20% decrease in CPA and a 30% increase in attributed conversions when a customer turns on Cappy. And so these numbers are fantastic, and they're able to bring them to their leadership, ask for more dollars, and really prove out the ROI for LinkedIn. But there's other ways that Cappy, really drives the success of a business. One, your overall lead quality is improved across the board. And through Cappy, you're also able to demonstrate marketing's impact on the sales pipeline. And so when you're able to drive more collaboration between these 2 teams and increase that transparency, you'll see them create joint strategies together, as opposed to sometimes having 2 completely separate strategies that can sometimes cannibalize each other. And also the power of really understanding and getting accurate attribution for which ad unit, which creative, which messaging is really working. That knowledge allows our customers to personalize in a more exact way and then scale it out more widely. And that power of understanding ROAS is so important for our customers, because you need to go with that hard data when you're seeing performance increase and ask for more budget. And so Cappy allows you to have that hard data to really make sure that you're putting the dollars where you're seeing actual conversions and sales and the bottom line actually happen.
That's great, because when you think about what gets measured gets achieved, I think that's an adage that goes around. It's very true, because I think about where do we start, right? What's the baseline? And one of the things I find fascinating about the way that Meta worked into the market and started giving that visibility, they introduced the event match quality, the EMQ score. So if you use this, it's a scale of 1 to 10, but it's something that has deep impact if you actually really start to tune and work with it. So Omer, whenever you think about how a brand can leverage EMQ to be able to improve their measurement, what do you recommend to them?
Yeah, sure. So I would just start and say that we in Meta believe that what doesn't get measured doesn't get done, let alone optimized. And that's why we launched this metric or quality score that is called EMQ, Event Match Quality. And that's the key for success here, because the integration part is good, but that's just the bridge, the framework. But you need to hone on the quality of the integration, the health of the integration. And the EMQ takes into account multiple components and parameters, such as data freshness, the data that you're able to share, how are you sending it. And this provides a good tool for your clients or yourself to understand, is the data that I'm sending is meaningful? At the end of the day, does this move the needle from an optimization perspective? And when you have this score between 1 to 10, you're able to take measures in order to improve it. And I would just say that we have also a guiding principle in Meta that is called API parity. And usually every feature that we release to our end clients, advertisers, or partners can be consumed by an API and to be built programmatically. So for example, the EMQ, which is available on our ads managers for clients, partners can integrate it as an API, which we call integration quality, and they can reflect the same experience, sometimes even better than us, on their systems. And Tealium is one of our partners that have chosen that path. And I would say this is my recommendation: double down on the health and quality of the data that you're sending, because just building the bridge is not enough.
Yeah, when we look at the number of advertisers that are using, like the Facebook Cappy today, we track in aggregate the EMQ score, and we want to be able to look at what good looks like, and we want to be able to promote and help healthy customers become better, unhealthy customers become healthy, those types of things, to be able to help provide value. So that's something we really work with, and it's amazing to see the difference between the Americas, European, and APJ for the way in which the ability to turn on Cappy starts, the measurement fidelity, the iteration and improvement, and then how the continuous monitoring and engagement can lift this substantially. And then over time, it really becomes something that the metrics are super reliable. They're used to base, major ad spend decisions with, and it's something very helpful for the brand. So whenever I think about the future and I look at where we're going, right, and what's going on, I think about, Omer, with where you see things evolving. I mean, where do you see Cappy going next?
Yeah, so the future is here. Copy, we started with Copy for Web, but over time, we expanded it to different channels. So the multi-channel approach is critical. We have support now for offline, web, offsite, which is kind of a call center, and also CRM. So now we're able to close optimization loops in different channels. And what's even more interesting, we're expanding Copy across our family of apps. So Copy can now support Facebook, Instagram, and business messaging services that we have, WhatsApp, Messenger, and Instagram Direct. So the future of Copy is expanding over channels and over our family of apps.
Great. Lauren, what do you see as the next phase?
Well, I would love to see LinkedIn logos on a lot more of the presentations up here next year. But LinkedIn is going to continue to invest in solutions and products that will allow our customers to really understand if a campaign has a net positive impact on conversion. So, for example, we recently launched the qualified lead optimization, and that will allow our customers to optimize towards deeper funnel stages of the B2B buying process. And so with that, you as our customer are also able to define what you consider a qualified lead. For some of you, it might be SQLs. For others, it might be MQLs. We give you the power to be able to do that. And so once this has launched, we've seen around a 39% decrease in cost per qualified leads once this is live. And with Cappy, you're able to pull those qualified leads in real time. So that audience is constantly growing with users who we most likely think will convert. So we're going to continue to come up with solutions, work with our partners like Tealium, get feedback from our customers, really understand what those pain points are, and learn from our other partners in the ecosystem what we can do to make our Cappy product, stronger, better, and be able to make your data perform and drive business success.
Awesome. Chris, what do you feel is next with the strategy for Cappy for Snap?
We're going to take probably a similar approach to what Meta does, because most of you are already sending your signal to them. So if they make it easier for you to do that, then we'll try and do the same. Echoing Lauren and our friend at Bahia, if you are not sending signal to Snap, we will pay you to do that, or we'll pay Tealium, or we'll pay whoever needs to be involved, because it really is that critical infrastructure. And I think we're focused on a few things. Offline data is really big for us. We have a map in our application for those unfamiliar, and we see a lot of consumer touch points in terms of where they go throughout the day, similar to WhatsApp. It's used as a messaging service, so we see users 30, 40 times a day, which makes location signal really critical, which gives us a huge opportunity to drive in-store visits for advertisers. So helping customers migrate their point of sale data into CDPs like Tealium and then into Snap has been a big focus for us, especially in North America for the QSR business and travel and auto. I think down the line, there was some talk of zero-party data. There was some talk of, the way that technology is going to be able to help sift through, this sea of information and ultimately extract a lot of value from it. I'm trying hard not to say AI, because I think that there's a lot of good work already happening on that front. And so doubling down on that, understanding how to better personalize as a result, and then ultimately deliver value for advertisers is the core focus.
Awesome. So takeaway, what would be one takeaway you'd ask this audience to think about if they're looking at putting in place a Cappy?
Yeah, I would say think about it as infrastructure. It's OpEx, right? So try to do it once, do it well, and then ideally, we will help you test and learn down the line.
Awesome. Omer?
Yeah, I think the main message is I saw when I mentioned that privacy and personalization can coexist. I think it must exist. And the way to kind of handle this is through Copy and other secure channels that is able to send and gather meaningful events down the line.
Lauren?
I would say if you're hearing a lot of no's at your company when it comes to wanting to implement CAPI and you need support, tap into LinkedIn, tap into our partner team, tap into your sales team. We can come up with that strategy together and bring it to leadership. And if you're at an agency, to your customers in a way that can hopefully resonate with them. So yeah, just know you're not alone in this. We understand the value of CAPI and really want to be able to help push that. And also, if you have any questions about the LinkedIn program we have live right now with Tealium, come find me after.
Yeah, this is fantastic because I think the conversation will continue on over drinks, dinner, and all that this evening. So my big takeaways is if you think about privacy concerns, if that's of utmost importance, it shouldn't stop you from activating CAPI. We have the resources, our partners have resources to help you navigate this. It's not a concern. We work within the most highly regulated industries on the planet. You've seen them discuss what they do with Tealium and how it helps them innovate. It's the same thing with CAPI. We can help you overcome that and be able to understand if it's GDPR, if it's in California CCPA, other regulations. We can help you understand not only with server-to-server communication, how this helps, but how it can really help with that measurement. So those are programs we've set up to help you. The partners have set up the programs. The agency partners, the system integrator partners all know how to do this. We can all help you get live. And so the impact that you saw, the stats that Twinset had up, the things that were going on with Compare the Market, everyone wants to publish the results because they're so good. And we want to help you get that live. And so the question really isn't, whether or not you should implement CAPI. It's, it's can you afford to wait? And so what I would encourage you to think about is you saw that equation, zero-party data plus first-party data plus CAPI, raised to the power of AI equals AO, right? And that's what we can do as a team to say, if we can help you with the CAPI piece, we want to start now. So if any of you are using the Tealium app, as we're getting off the stage, I would encourage you to open the app. There's a way to rate the session. And what you can do in that is you can put in the notes. Just tell us what CAPIs you want to activate. We will engage you. We will help you. Just list 1, 2, 5, however many you have. Let us know. We can track you within the app, and we can also come to you and then set this up with you. So that's something we definitely want to be able to do to help everyone walk away with something they can put into place that makes a measurable difference. So thank you all for making the time to do this today, and thank you to the audience for this incredible discussion. So don't wait. Make sure you ask every one of these panelists so we can get started today. Thank you.